And we're live. What's going on, guys? Today is Wednesday, June 26th. I got a special guest in the house. I got Phil Greiner. I always fuck that up. I'm sorry, Phil. He's my good buddy and pal and friend all the way up from New York. He's killing it right now in everything, and we're going to talk about his business. Please ask questions. Let's get into it right away. How's it going, buddy?
What's going on?
Nothing much. Trying to stay cool. It's fucking hot as hell outside. It's like 110.
Yeah, no, we
How's it
dealt
up
with
in
that last
Buffalo?
week. I'm sorry you cut out.
I said, how's it up in Buffalo?
It's 80 at the moment, which is comfortable. Last week was mid-90s, which is too much for a polar bear. So,
Yeah, I hear you on that one. We're Tommy. I'm echoing. Mic check. Echo. Sorry about that, bud. So, get into it. Tell me about you? What do you got going on? Buffalo brick and mortar. What's your whole business? What's your specialty?
We're a single-family real estate investor in the Buffalo Niagara Falls market. Brick and mortar has been open for 5 or 6 years now. Past few years, we're averaging, give or take, 120 transactions a year. Goal is this year to flip 40 houses. Got a team of 18 at the moment and growing. In-house construction, management, and marketing. We do a little bit of everything.
What's your favorite part, right? Let me start off there. Do you enjoy flips? Do you enjoy wholesales? What's your bread and butter, if you will?
I'm screwed up and I love to cause myself pain, so I enjoy all of it. Transactionally, I do love doing deals, so that's something that keeps me coming back to it. And I've always been in construction, so it doesn't bother me at all. I love torture.
We're a specialty in the company, right? Are you the acquisition side? Are you the systems side?
I am definitely not the systems guy. I'm the one that makes a mess and then somebody else has to clean it up. It's just being honest. And then I'm sorry, you kind of cut out again with your question.
I was just saying, so then you're more on the acquisition side then? You enjoy the deal process, the deal creation, right?
So I'm doing the underwriting, have a full-time acquisitions manager at the moment that's doing most of the phone conversation with sellers and even the site inspection. But at the end of the day, I'm doing the valuation. That's something that I'm good at and I've been doing for a long time. Way back when I probably did 10,000 broker price opinions on behalf of the mortgage default servicing industry, and then had my appraisal license for a short term. So it's definitely something I understand, and yeah, I enjoy it.
What got you in? So you were doing the BPOs. You were an appraiser, right? Where you had your license, you were saying?
Appraisal assistant that never really took off. But, my experience is mortgage default servicing. I was in property preservation, serviced bank-owned foreclosure homes, and then I moved on to the management and marketing, and I was a foreclosure broker for 3 or 4 years. I
want to get into. Say that again.
I got an institutional education to real estate investing. At the end of the day, my clients were the banks and the government, the largest landlords in the U.S.
Tell everybody you have to underwrite as many deals as you can when you're first getting into this. Otherwise, you don't know what a bad deal looks like. So I love that you're actually saying that you did the numbers countless times.
That's absolutely true.
What marketing? So I like to talk about marketing a lot. What's working for you guys right now in your market? do you guys run into anything different being up in Buffalo? So comparatively, I was talking to Tommy. I was looking at your website, and you guys have a beautiful website, Buffalo Brick and Mortar. Our side, we don't. We have a very ugly PPC site, but it is our biggest generator. So I was wondering, like in a smaller market, does that go longer for you? Do you see more return customers, type of stuff like that? Tell me about your marketing in of a smaller market.
I mean, return customers, I wouldn't put it that way. For the most part, it's one, maybe somebody has 2, 3, 4 houses where we're taking down a package. But I mean, from the marketing conversation, I always encourage everybody that's trying to make this a business and not a hobby that you've got to diversify. At the end of the day, one marketing channel goes up one month and then it goes down the next month. Currently, what's been working for us the most is mail, television, radio, and just SEO. We do a ton of Google ads. We struggle with that. Maybe I need your team to redo my PPC, but that's at least at the moment. But you ask me the same question in 2 months, and then you're bragging about PPC, mail's terrible, television's terrible. You've got to be diversified if you're trying to turn this into something cool.
In regards to your marketing, right? How often are you sitting down and doing reevaluations of your channels, right? So how often are you tweaking them and such like that?
I mean, at least once a month, we're at least doing a high-level overview of where everything sits. I guess another piece of advice that somebody new coming in, you got to be consistent. Don't do anything for a month or 2 months or 3 months. You've got to stay invested in it to get that return. I mean, that's something not marketing related, but the goal is in the follow-up. It's not the first time you have a conversation with somebody where boom, we have a deal. You're talking to them for 3, 6 months. You know their names, their kids' names, the dog's name, relationships.
I'm so happy you said that too, because we sit here and we preach almost every day that if you're going to get into a marketing channel, make sure you have a marketing budget for 3 to 6 months, right? To be able to run it a full campaign. So many times people turn on PPC for a month and then they turn it off because they didn't get anything following up from it, right? Like so many times people can just set money on fire and be better rewarded than shutting a campaign down.
Correct. It's a long-term play.
So Tom O'Donnell is O'Connell. Shit, I'm sorry. He's asking how many deals you're getting a month from direct mail. I think this is also like a trick question because you can get good deals from direct mail by doing small batch versus large batch. So it is skewed.
We're averaging around 4 to 5 a month for direct mail. But in the same conversation, everything just becomes part of a bigger branding experiment as you've been marketing in the same market for a long time. I mean, the same individuals getting the postcard that's hearing us on the radio, seeing us on the television, seeing us on the internet. So, I mean, it becomes more difficult to track, I guess. And I don't want to make numbers lead people in the wrong direction, but 4 to 5, I think, is what we're averaging off mail at the moment.
And then just to follow up on that, Tommy's asking, how many pieces of mail are you sending out every month?
I can get that answer.
Large bulk batch.
I can get that answer, but I don't handle that portion of the business at all anymore. If I had to, it's something equates back to what, 12, 15 grand a month at 30 cents a watt or whatever. It's a decent chunk of money for parcels.
It's part of that omni marketing, right? You always try to pick multiple different avenues and go down them, right? For that 40 to 50,000 pieces is what that equates out to, is what I'm hearing.
I knew somebody in the background could do the math.
Say that again?
I said I knew somebody on your team could do the math.
Yeah, right. Not me. One thing I've been dying to ask you, right, and I don't want to get into politics, how much I hate New York since I moved from it, yada, yada, yada. What challenges do you see working in a non-title state? So a lawyer state, if you will.
Yep. So I guess not challenges, but what I would encourage operators to do is make sure your attorney owns the title company, because that is what expedites and makes everything easier. I can name a couple examples locally who are investor friendly because they have both services. If you're just paying extra for an attorney that's not doing the title searches or the search work, you're wasting your time. Because at the end of the day, they're at the, I guess, mercy of a third party vendor, and it becomes more difficult, like anything, to establish a relationship there. I mean, we've closed deals in as quick as a week, but that's with the assumption that the title or the seller had the existing title search. It was just an update and there weren't any blemishes. A lot of that stuff, as I'm sure you know, with title revolves around the individual. Are you dealing with 3 bankruptcies, probate court, long lost cousin Karen that just popped out of the woodwork? Depends on how marked up it is. I guess in the same conversation, it changes how I underwrite deals. Eviction laws in New York are not at all friendly. They are 110% written for the tenant and not the landlord. I got myself burned up or jammed up on a property right at the start of COVID, where it took me 24 months just to get eviction paperwork processed. So with that said, after being burned once, I'm hesitant when I'm buying an occupied rental where I have a bad feeling about the tenant. Or if the seller's up front and says, listen, they're not cooperating.
So you're always, anytime you're buying something with a tenant in place or anybody currently living there, what are you requiring? Does a lease actually, is that enough?
Just
Or
take
does
the
it
lease and burn it, because it doesn't matter if it's existing or not. New York is all for the tenant. I guess a piece of advice or trick of the trade I can give when you're purchasing it with the seller still in there. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of this businesses are, situational. They need the money to buy their next house. They need a month to get out. What we'll do is leave some money in escrow at closing with the attorney. That way, when they vacate on the date that was approved, they get their money back. And in fact, if they're going to start to play games and jam you up for potentially years, you have some leverage there. I'm pretty sure the verbiage specifically changes the rent past the agreed upon occupancy date to $150 a day. So that way you're encouraging them to vacate the building.
really hightail it out of there?
Correct.
We do the same thing down in Texas, which is awesome to hear, but our leases actually matter, and landlords are not as I mean, it's still, right, if you're working in Dallas County proper and stuff like that, you're still at the mercy of them, but it's a lot gentler, I will say that, than New York.
For sure.
So so in today's current market, that is something that I love to talk about all day long. What's working best for you, right? I think you mentioned a little bit on the marketing side. Are you running into any differences in the acquisitions or any challenges?
I mean, consistency, although we're coming off our best month ever, just signed 20 contracts and we're up to 14 already for June. But I mean, there's still seasonality to this business. I guess as Texas doesn't deal with the snow, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. But I mean, everything always slows down around the holidays and during the winter around here. In the same conversation, I like starter homes, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,200, 1,400 square foot. I mean, at the end of the day, there's always a market for that. And you're not
What price
getting
point
into
is that?
it
That ARV?
depends. I mean, on the very low end stuff, you're talking like $150, but more realistically, 250, something around there.
Yeah, we do. Ours is like sub 300. It's the same thing though, right?
Same
There's
thing.
affordable housing is needed in any market. Right now, you can drive up and down the highway, and there's just homeless people everywhere. So there needs to be a place for them.
No, absolutely. Um,
What what about any tips for beginners getting into flips and wholesales?
I mean, if you want to be aggressive, find the biggest player in your market and go try to work for them. I mean, you're going to get the most education, in my opinion, being hands on and seeing how a real operation goes. Um, I mean, YouTube University is also a great resource. I've learned a lot there. Sit down, figure out who knows what they're talking about. That's where you have to be selective and just kind of absorb some of their content.
One of my favorite questions to ask people is how much they've spent on their education.
A lot. It's not cheap.
That's the answer I want to hear, right? Everything is paying toward your education in this business.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got I don't know, the newbie wholesaler coaches can get a real dirty reputation because a lot of them don't know what the hell they're doing. So, like anything, just do your due diligence on the individual you're signing up for. I get a lot of value from coaching. I'm involved in a ton of it, so I'm not trying to knock it at all. But I mean, just make sure you know who you're signing up with and
Yeah.
you're ready for whoever that is.
So how can they avoid those mistakes, I guess?
Oh, I mean, do your due. I guess the internet. I mean, make sure you're really underwriting the individual you're looking at, signing up with, and make sure they're credible. And I guess also make sure that they're at the same level. You're not going to hire a business consultant for a Fortune 500 company as a coach when you're trying to start real estate investing. You want to talk to somebody that's more marketing and wholesaling related. If you're running $1 million or a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you need a different type of individual. Just try to be aware of where you are in the process.
When you started your career out, let's just start there. Were you doing mostly wholesales before you got into flips, or because that's usually the path, right? You start doing transactional wholesales, then flips, then start holding on to the long-term properties. Or were you
Yeah.
able to start up a marketing budget and jump right into flipping?
I mean, I had the pretty standard evolution of a real estate investor. You're starting off with the wholesaling deals and selling it to other investors. Moved into it the JV situation and started to partner with a bunch of local flippers. I had the deals; they needed the projects. Moved from there until I've been independently able to raise the capital necessary for the flips and the long-term rentals as well. So I mean, I guess fairly standard evolution there. That's something else
What
for
was
the
your
new
first marketing channel?
cold calling.
Was it door knocking? Was it cold calling? Like, what were you doing? Were you boots on the ground finding those deals?
Cold calling. Funny story. One of my buddies was nice enough to lend me some garage space, and right above it was a music recording studio. So I was sitting there ripping Mojo Dialer with the band playing on the drums upstairs and a kerosene torpedo heater in the garage. Somebody answered the phone, I'd have to run and shut off the heater so that I could actually understand what they were saying. It was so damn loud. But yeah, no, couldn't afford
What
the
year was
more
that?
expensive marketing channels. That was probably 5 years ago.
That's awesome. Coming a long way.
It's been a hell of a ride, Captain.
What? So for those people that are trying to go from one or two deals a month consistently to actually scaling and growing, right? What would be a big tip or a big key giveaway that you can give?
Oh,
Any
I mean, if I
special
would have started,
tools, softwares, or anything like that that you guys are using? Anything,
um, I mean, getting organized with your data. I mean, even batch is a simple answer to being able to organize your stuff and manage and monitor what you've been marketing with. I guess something else would be to start social media earlier. Even if you're starting off and just trying to get a presence, don't be afraid to throw up a basic post. That's a long-term play, and I mean, it can do numbers for you later on.
Do you guys spend a lot of, are there a lot of groups up there that you're spending? Like when you say social media, are you going in social media groups or are you just blasting out on your own wall?
Um, Internally, I guess on our own wall, but yeah, I mean, we're probably a member of 6 or 7 groups here locally where you'd be surprised who raises their hand when you have a deal that makes sense, and is looking for inventory.
I love it. What, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some just random questions or conversations that we can have. Uh, One of the things that, I just went blank.
I mean, people just need to understand that it's a relationship-based business. Can we agree upon that? I
Yeah,
mean, the
you
same
spend more
people
time
that
being a family counselor than anything.
absolutely. I mean, that's on the seller side. I was more discussing the buyer side of things, and I mean even the financing side of things. At the end of the day, once you, or I guess, gain a good reputation with people here locally, those same relationships can evolve into, I mean, numerous things. I've got financing through that. I've got property management through that, and they're all the same individuals. Even if they're not the one that can provide the service or what you're looking for, they know who to ask, especially if they're seasoned.
So how do you go about finding private lenders? Let me start there, right?
So, I mean, I joke that I was a drug dealer to your local real estate investor for the better part of 15 years. I sold foreclosures, so those guys were all pinching me for information. So just the same conversation we just had. People that I was selling deals to for years are now turning into lenders. Social media has been great. I've had friends from college or I haven't seen in 10 years reach out and fucking Phil, you're still in real estate? I want you some money. Um,
Phil, you're still alive?
no shit, yeah.
I love it. The people get so hung up on starting and doing the best thing ever, or like trying to get the full picture in view, or anything, right? When it's as simple as just putting out the ask, just putting out the, hey, this is what I'm doing in business. I have this opportunity. I'm looking for X and Y, and people get hung up on that, and they won't do it. They just get scared of their own shadows. It feels like.
Yep. I mean, the local RIAs, you know this as well, but go there consistently. I'll just stand in the back and pay attention to who knows what's going on and go approach him or her, whoever it is.
So how do you stay motivated? Let me start there. How do you stay motivated and continue to grow your business? A lot of times people run into jams or they run into weeds and they just crumble down sometimes. So
I mean, it's hard. I mean, at the end of the day, if you ask me what I want today, I'll give you an answer. You ask me the same question tomorrow, I'm going to give you a completely different answer. Um, the ability to set some goals and put them on paper and monitor them throughout the year is huge. And more importantly, to hire the right people. I enjoy, helping people and growing a business. So the more that we can do, the better. But you just have to be conscientious of the breaking point. Don't choke yourself in overhead or stress. And there is a certain level that enough is enough.
when you find, like, all right, this is a time where I need X or Y, like how do you make the decision it's time to hire out? And where are you finding those people?
Um, my opinion, it's always an uncomfortable one because it's like, can we afford them? I can do this myself more efficiently. Um, Big credit to Adam, my COO. He's been huge in our, I guess, growth and the ability to add people. Um, what we've been doing recently is Wise Hire ads. Has the ability to go locally and internationally. If anybody's looking for acquisitions, property management, project management, we have all that stuff typed up. Be more than willing to share, but Wise Hire Premium has been where we've been picking up most people if it's not somebody that we already knew.
So a lot of times it would be like referral based too.
Yeah, I mean, my operations guy I went to high school with, sales manager I went to high school with, my assistant, I almost bought her house, ended up referring it to a realtor. It was a referral from somebody else. My acquisitions guy is a friend from college, brother. A lot of it's done internet work.
What was the first position you hired out?
Cold calling and follow up, and that was done, I guess, internationally. I'm an international man of
Did you hire
mystery.
service? How'd that go?
Hired a service, and then they ended up going belly up, and then I have hired those gentlemen directly. They were both with me for three and a
Are they
half
still
years.
working for you?
Not at this point in time, but his sister is. So again, it's all in the family.
People, I talk to investors all the time, newer wholesalers, and the first want to get into it and they first want to hire out, and they always go the VA route. And it's such a red flag for me. It really is, because if you don't understand how to use that VA or what their goals need to be, or like actually what the job position is in a sense to hand over to that VA, that VA is just a robot in a sense, right? It's just a $4 an hour position, and people will end up spending money trying to manage that instead of just managing the leads and doing the actual work. And it drives me up a wall.
Yep. I mean, I wasn't paying $4 an hour. I was paying 12 or 15 plus a bonus. So I was getting a higher quality individual. I'm a big fan of South America, whether it's Costa Rica, Mexico, etc. Had a lot of success recruiting there, for what it's worth. But yeah, I couldn't afford anybody else, so I had to go offshore. Welcome to New York. Unemployment taxes, disability taxes, this, that, and all the other shit.
Dude, that's getting into conversations I don't even know. Talk to a CPA. Fuck, I ran away from that state for a reason. Even when I was working down in Louisiana, I still had to pay New York taxes. I wasn't even in the goddamn state just because I had a mailbox there.
It's ridiculous, right?
I hate them.
Fuck 'em.
So what do you have on the schedule for your goals and plans? Like, where are you going? Where are you taking it? Do you have any? Are you buckling down for 25 in any different ways?
If I'm being honest, I haven't thought about 2025 yet. We're still trying to get through 2024.
I hear
This
you.
year, we're trying to, I guess, redistribute our disposition. Last year, we were primarily wholesale and a smaller percentage flip. This year, we're trying to hold more rentals and flip more. I think we're aiming for 40 flips and 20 rentals this year, and then just wholesale the rest. So I guess we're changing our disposition strategy. We're not really looking for transactional growth.
Are you doing DSCR financing? Are you doing for the takeout?
DSCR, yeah, no. For the most part, I'm looking for cash out. Rate and term is, I'm not looking to have any capital into a rental by the time I'm holding onto it. And the equity buy down at the point of purchase is what I'm banking on. But rate and term, whether it's Turnus, RCN, Kiabi, all those guys have been good, and they've been pretty great on the bridge as well.
Mm-hmm. that's another thing that we kind of get into is like 5 years ago, private lending was private lending for a reason. You had to give somebody a hand job underneath the table. Nowadays, you can go out and get Kiavi in a sense, right, which offers pretty goddamn good financing, and it's available to everybody, right? It's a known product. It's not private, but it's still relatively good.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's fairly transactionally easy, and if you're not applying leverage to exponentially grow your business, kind of shame on you. I mean, don't do anything foolishly. If you're buying a junk deal, don't do it. But if the numbers make sense and that's all it's going to sprinkle of cash on top, definitely look at building relationships with those guys, whether it's somebody privately or Kiavi and RCN, Turnus, etc.
was it a long time before you came to that realization, or was that quick in your first year?
I was coming out of a credit crisis, so I mean, I knew I needed that sort of relationship to begin with, but nobody was going to touch me on paper. So I mean, that was kind of where my first year was at, more of a rebuild. But I mean, the second I could, I forget, I think it was like a 680 or something was the minimum at that point in time. The second I hit a 680, I picked up the phone and I made the phone call.
Love it. How are you managing timelines nowadays? Are you in and out quickly? Right now, I'm screaming to tell everybody if it's anything past 90 days, try to avoid it, right? Just wholesale it. How's timelines working up there?
I'm pretty sure our average days in inventory on a flip from the date of purchase to the date of resale is hovering around like 130 at this point in time. On average, on the construction side of things, we're sitting between 45 and 60 days. It all depends on how many are in the inventory. I mean, currently, there's 13 construction jobs going on at one point in time, and I'm the only project manager. So we're getting by.
Yeah, that's the next hire out, I'm guessing.
Already done. He starts in 2 weeks. But
fair enough. Where'd you find him?
Wise hire, same thing. Look for somebody that knows. Yeah, Wise hire.
I haven't heard of them. I will check into it.
Yeah. Hire somebody that knows more than you. This gentleman has owned a construction company since, I believe, the early 90s. If you're looking for a management position, I also encourage, if you're a younger guy, look at somebody with experience. Don't be afraid to hire somebody in their 50s, 60s plus. I mean, a lot of the times they've made the mistakes that you're trying to avoid.
One way or another, you're going to pay for that education.
Yeah.
So, your acquisitions kids, how are they working? You said you have one acquisitions manager?
Well, technically we have 1.5 acquisitions guys. You guys only been with us for a few months and is still going through training. But for the most part, I mean, during onboarding, we were attached at the hip for the first few months. I'm sure they were thrilled to wake up in the morning and ride around next to my fat ass, but I mean, it's just part of the boots on the ground training. Walk them through, I mean, everything, condition, or property inspections, condition, what to look for mechanically, structurally, moving on to, I mean, just the sales training in itself, understanding the psychology, and at the end of the day, we're here to solve people's problems. If you can't identify that problem, we're going to have a problem. And then the valuation side of things, underwriting, how to pull comps, how the ML works, and where to look for this information.
Are you guys running into issues or problems with other buyers? Right now, everybody in Texas is stepping on each other's hands 10 times from Sunday. So everybody's getting overbid and underbid.
Yeah, I mean, there's competition for sure, and you're losing $10,000, $20,000 because there's another hat in the ring. But As long as you have a disposition, whether it's a quick wholesale to somebody else or the math makes sense as a flip, it's just part of life. Don't be cheap.
I sit there and I listen to Tony just whipping the acquisitions kids, and he's like, we never lose on money, you know, we never lose on price, right? Price is never the factor. So if we're losing, it better be losing by a lot. And people come in and they'll overpay by like 50 grand. And we still, as long as you did the legwork up front, you can still kind of blow holes in those contracts and still make the deal work, right? Because you are the better offer, because you're the professional. You understand everything. A lot of times you can sit down and actually walk through their numbers and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the reason why this isn't an actual deal is because there's no option period, or sorry, there is an option period and it's for pennies and their repairs aren't factored in, right? Like none of this makes sense. The numbers just don't math. We're seeing a lot of that right now.
I mean, this is where your reputation is everything. I think we canceled one deal last year, and the dude was just getting arrogant with me, and I wasn't fucking dealing with it. But if we sign our name on the dotted line, we're gonna close, or we have somebody that's gonna close on it. I mean, even Dallas, which is a major metro, it's still a small town or a small community. Everybody will know if you're running around tying people up and, you know, making nightmares.
There's people out here that are literally just sign contracts, and the next thing they do is they file a memo. It's like step one, step two, and then that's it. They're locking it up one way or another, and they don't know how to get contracts actually closed. It's fucking wild. It's like the Wild West again. It's bananas. I love to hear everything you're saying, man.
Appreciate that.
It's in New York.
And we got a
moving out of that place.
I mean, this maybe I got to start thinking about 2025. Is that what you're telling me?
All I'm saying is, I'm trying not to get political, but we're going to be seeing a wild adjustment. I'll see what happens. I can't believe you're still paying state taxes.
Well, I know. I'm young and dumb. My parents are still alive. The business is still in its, you know, it's somewhat infancy. I mean, there are, I'm guessing, or how the hell am I guessing it for my goals, some plans to move into another market, but not in the immediate future. I mean, fortunately, I'm not in that cesspool that they call New York City. I'm, you know, in the upstate portion of it, which definitely has its flaws, but whole nother level.
Yeah, it's at least right up there. I like how you say pretty much you're being an investor first, right? You're evaluating everything from that lens, and you're being the professional in the room. I think so many times when people are trying to get into this, they don't understand. In order to be a successful wholesaler, you need to be a successful investor. You need to understand everything. And that's where the numbers and the offers come through. People brag about having a 70% success rate, and I'm like, that's disgusting. You should not be proud about that. That means you are dropping 30% of deals and just lying to people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a person on the other side of every one of these transactions. And how would you feel if you needed 100 grand or had to leave your house or whatever the fucking situation is, and then on the 11th hour, it's, no, we're not interested. That's just fucking nonsense.
My favorite is when I call agents or wholesalers, whatever you want to call them, to talk about their sub-2 deal. And their first response is, oh, I'm sorry, I had to drop that contract last week. It wasn't a deal. I'm like, no shit, it wasn't. Like, the numbers didn't make sense on the front side. Like, why were you even blasting that out?
House was on fire, repairs, $20,000. I love seeing those posts too. There's no frick in front of the building, roof's collapsing. That's just what are people thinking?
Do you have an updated price per square foot or anything like that for repairs? Or
I mean, we've got something basic in the background. I kind of look at it more from the macro level. I mean, if we're doing a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and essentially touching every surface. Maybe sometimes you're doing the roof, sometimes you're doing the HVAC, but always a large portion of it. It's running me like $50,000 to $60,000 for a single family flip. I guess I could do the math on that and come back with cost per square foot. You're a smart guy. I need to talk to you more, but I more look at it as a project total.
I'm just wondering, right? It doesn't have to be an actual calculation for price per square foot. I'm just a lunatic like that. But there's so many times people don't know the actual cost of rehabs. That number's going up every goddamn day, it seems like.
Yeah.
But their rehab budgets aren't going up when they send out these deals, so it's just comical.
Some of these people are sending budgets from 1984. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna get concrete done for $4 an hour. I'm gonna buy him lunch though. What are you smoking, buddy?
Are you guys doing any owner finance deals or anything like that? Anything creative?
We struggle with that. I'm kind of the one-trick pony. We'll give you the cash option. If it's something that's very tight, we'll be upfront with the seller and be like, listen, I'm not your guy, but if you want to sign on the dotted line and give me a week, I can run a couple people through here and I'm pretty sure we can come to terms. But great finance-wise, not a hell of a lot.
Deal first, though, right? Like you're going to sit down, approach a deal first, and offer them the best option that works for you. Fucking pisses me off when people get the shiny object syndrome and they jump around before they master their one thing. So being a one-trick pony isn't really a knock, right? Like you gotta be proud about that. You're a successful one-trick pony. You don't need to go and get creative and shit like that, reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
We're running into a lot of that right now in Dallas. We got 9 million people here, and feels like half of them are doing sub-2 and creative financing.
Are you doing any of it? Because I mean, it can also be seen as kind of foolish. Like you're already spending the marketing dollars. You convert another 3, 4, 10-year deals a year. But again, back to your point, it has to be a deal. You're not trying to create something out of nothing. I mean, just curious.
So we absolutely do them. We specialize in the deal first approach, right? So we do the direct to seller marketing, same as you. We're going to sit down with the sellers, evaluate all the offers, and then offer them the best one for that solution, right? So for that situation, we're not one of those shops that offer them like 5 different options. I know some people do that. They'll give them a sheet with multiple different options. We don't do that. We'll give them the cash off. We'll give them the cash offer first, if that's the best option, and then go down the line. If it works to where it's a creative financing or sub-2, we'll absolutely do it. We did one 2 months ago. I think it was 105% of ARV, and we still sold it. We were still able to make it a whole deal, right? But we were upfront with the seller and say, hey, listen, this isn't for us. We think we can find a buyer. Same thing that you said, right? Like, we can solve your problems by having you move out without having to worry about anything. You can get $5,000 to go put down on something new. You solve their problems in one way or another. You're still gonna you're gonna still capitalize on that marketing budget, right? So deal first approach.
And then just transparency. Don't be running around doing shit behind people's backs. This is what we're doing. This is why we're here. This is the process. That'll go a huge way.
Even like you said, though, it's such a small market. Even nationwide, we can sit here and talk all day long about people that we know in different submarkets across the country that are doing deals, not doing deals. So no matter what, like, it's a small network at the end of the day. So if you're not actually living up to your word, you're not doing what you say you're supposed to do, you're going to get outed real quick. And this industry has a long memory.
For sure. Once you tarnish your name, shame on you.
Oh, let's not bring up Dr. Disrespect right now. It's not nice. The man's reeling, so we don't have to talk about that. Sorry, I love it. Anything else you want to touch on, or does anybody have any questions that's listening in the comments? Anybody have any troubles that they're running into with marketing, talking to sellers, how to analyze deals? Are you in New York or Texas? Any of that stuff, drop it in the comments. We're always here to help. But
I mean, encouraging the mastermind circuit. I guess that's how we met Investor Fuel. But when you're ready and have the finances and the business to make that jump, I would strongly consider higher education or the various mastermind groups out there. Like anything, do your due diligence. There's bullshit, but make sure you're intertwined with the right circle.
We've said it so many times today alone, right? And it sounds cheesy that we're sitting here. Like, that should be the ad for this. But you're going to pay one way or another. Even if you get into, how much, do you have it calculated how much you net lost on that 2-year deal where you had the squatter or whatever you want to call?
I mean, technically, I think we made like $2,200 after all that bullshit. But then you
That's how you
factor
underwrite
in
the deal correctly.
Yeah,
That's how
but
I
then
underwrote this deal so good that it could go wrong for 24 months and I can still break even, right? Like that's a win.
that's a win. I mean, it killed the potential cherry, I guess, if that makes sense. The I guess eviction process. But I mean, if you look at the same deal monetarily, but you factor in time, it's a loss. I dealt so much time with eviction attorneys and bullshit and this and that. It didn't work.
There's no way to win in that regard either. Oh, Tommy had a great question here. So he's asking, what's your handoff from acquisitions to dispositions look like?
I mean, they work literally hand in hand. If it's something where we have a borderline deal to begin with, my acquisitions guy is talking to dispositions and he's pre-marketing that out to kind of our VIP list. Listen, we've done a bunch of transactions. I know you're not going to step on me. Does this make any sense for X, whatever that number is, and try and tie something out of nothing? I mean, if we can sign a wholesale deal for 5 or 10 grand and make everybody happy, we're all for that. But I mean, understanding what your investors are looking for is definitely huge.
It drives us up a wall when we call a disposition kid and he doesn't know any details about the property. He doesn't know what title company it's at. It doesn't know where the photos are, right? Like if you ask him questions about it, he's got to, I'll go get you the answers. We make our dispositions team underwrite it their own way, right? So step one is always like they communicate. There's a handoff email. They go over, they sit down, and they talk about it. But my dispositions team is going to pull his own comps. He's going to actually understand the full ins and outs of it, look at all the numbers. They have to be working hand in hand. I don't know how anybody is being successful out there without them working together. It blows my mind.
So, I mean, my dispositions person is also my agent. We brought him in-house, and then he sells all of our flips and wholesales. Those are tenant leasing. So, I mean, there's constant communication between him, John, and myself, and it's the only way to make something that's ever going to grow.
Are you doing any for the you mentioned tenant listings and stuff like that? Are you doing anything unique in the rental world, right? So are you doing any Airbnbs or pad splits?
We've got 8 Airbnbs, 8 short-term rentals. I guess advice there is buy something unusual. I mean, at least Buffalo, there's 10 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom houses. You can take the 2-family, or I have one with a commercial storefront that we ended up converting into a game room, but the combination of 7 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms just isn't common for around here. So that's our best performing building. We're getting the larger group stays. and I guess the parties, corporate functions where they're trying to stay with multiple people. Um, in the same conversation, we list that multiple ways on Airbnb. We'll have unit one independently, unit two independently, and then the option to book the entire property as a whole. So if you start to play with your calendar and get creative with the inventory you have, it's definitely lucrative. Stepping back to New York's liberal hellhole of eviction laws, one of the biggest reasons I got involved with it is Airbnb is a license to occupy the building and it's not a lease. And with the assumption that the booking is less than 30 days. So if somebody pisses you off, the music was too loud, they were smoking in the house, throwing a party, whatever, you can literally call the police, grab them by the collar and throw them out the door. So I mean, especially if you're looking at exposure from the landlord, it's something I would encourage.
That's awesome to hear, actually, that you can still do a Texas eviction up there. One of the scariest stories I've went over in the past year was California Airbnb guy just took over the garage for like 520 days. And it was like a $700,000 house or $800,000 house, and just lost it, and all from Airbnb, but it was an overstay, long-term tenant.
I mean, let me, I guess, throw the disclaimer out there that I am not an attorney, but I've had several attorneys explain to me the same logic where it's a license, not a lease. I have to imagine their stay hit a certain number of days, and then for whatever liberal bullshit reason, it converts to a long-term tenancy.
What are you managing those in-house, or is that just your dispo person that's managing it?
My assistant's managing it, and then one of my construction guys is helping with some of the, I guess, trash maintenance, this, that.
Yeah, make readies and stuff, like cleanups and stuff.
Yeah.
It scares me. I've looked into it. I've talked to countless people because when I was doing refinances during it, right, they were just, you run the numbers, I analyze them. It just scares me because you're jumping into the hospitality industry. You accidentally leave not enough toilet paper, and next thing you know, you're getting bashed. It just,
yeah. I mean, that comes down to a reliable cleaner, and we've had a couple Karen's bitch, not enough toilet paper. You only had decaf coffee, whatever the hell the circumstance is. But I mean, getting a reliable cleaner in the background, they're really the ones checking stock on a day-to-day.
So what, we can start wrapping it up. I know you got another place to head to. What, one final golden nugget to give away? Something to keep people motivated and keep going in 24.
Yeah, believe in yourself or nobody else will. I mean, if you're trying to get into wholesaling or lending or rentals or be an agent or whatever, I mean, have some confidence in yourself.
Love it, man. Where can people find you?
Check us out on the web, buffalobrickandmortar.com. Shoot me an email, phil@buffalobrickandmortar.com, or 716-322-3175. Feel free to hit up my cell phone.
If anybody's up in the woods of New York, give Phil a call. He'll definitely help you out. Phil, I really appreciate your time today, man. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good to see you. Thanks, bro.
Next time you're in town, let me know.
Yes, sir.
I'll talk to you soon, right? Everybody,
we need another golf cart experience.
Say that again?
We need another experience on a golf cart with a gallon of milk.
Oh my God. I still can't bend my toe from that day. My big toe is just dead. I got a dead toe from hanging out with you. I just want you to know that. So, I hope everybody enjoyed this. If there's anybody that needs anything, let us know. Drop a comment. My toolkit that I put together, the REIAF toolkit, is in the comments. Download it. It's free. It's got all of our contracts, resources, and everything in it. So if anybody needs anything, let us know. Otherwise, keep crushing it. Peace.
Thanks, Mike.